Hi there. My name is Kelsey Schroeder. I'm a product manager at Google ML, and I'm excited to welcome you to our beginner track for our Women in ML Symposium today. This track will focus on getting started in machine learning and everything you need to know to get started on your journey. And today, I'm delighted to be joined by three guests. We'll hear from Merve, who's a developer advocate at Hugging Face, Irene, who's a technical program manager at Google, and Chandni, who's a product solutions engineer at Google. How this will work is we'll hear from each guest for about 15 minutes about their journey in ML, and then we'll come back with the full panel for Q&A at the end. So as you listen to the presentations, please add questions with the link below to the group so we can make sure we cover the topics that are most interesting to you. With that, I will turn it over to Merve for our first presentation.
Thank you, Kelsey. Welcome, everyone. I'm Merve. I will talk about how to make progress for finding your first job as a machine learning engineer and becoming a machine learning GDE. I'm a GDE in ML for a year now. I'm currently doing TensorFlow maintenance and advocacy at Hugging Face, studying on a data science master's program at the same time. I was a big fan of the recent industrial revolution, and I thought I might just join the hype, so I took the data science course at the bachelor's degree I was studying. I come from an operations research background, so it's easy for me to learn as I have already learned most of the concepts earlier, like optimization, decision theory, and so on. When I graduated, unfortunately, I couldn't find a job, so I told my family to wait, and they said, okay. I joined boot camps, communities. I did boot camps as a mentor. As I already knew algorithms, I learned that it's very important to build a portfolio more than any other certificate. So I found my first job after doing an NLP project, and I put it in my portfolio. I started doing chatbots and NLP products for a living. And then I started giving workshops on machine learning in Google developers circles and other communities, which enabled me to learn even more thanks to community. I learned a lot from community. I was then reached out by former Middle East and Northern Africa Director of Google Communities, İlker Akansel, and was continuously pinged by him on me becoming a Google developer expert. Then I applied and got it, and I will tell you shortly how I did that. So currently, I'm doing my master's in data science and teach people what I learned in my master's, because I believe that information should be accessible for everyone. Not everyone can afford doing a master's in computer science and data science. So I'm basically trying to democratize machine learning. I'm currently, for my love of communicating with like-minded people, I decided to change my path to become a developer advocate. I'm currently building tools for developers using Hugging Face, and also I'm maintaining TensorFlow ecosystem in Hugging Face and build community. We build tools necessary for machine learning and make them open source and accessible to democratize machine learning and empower communities to build their own models. Next, I would like to talk a bit about MLGDE program. MLGDE program is one of the community efforts of Google on machine learning. As MLGDEs, we help democratize Google's machine learning efforts, teach people about Google's ML ecosystem and also machine learning theory. These are mostly on TensorFlow, JAX, Flex, Trax, and other solutions of Google. If you love building things with community, teaching people machine learning, and if you have a community mindset that you like to spend your time with a community, with like-minded people, you are a great fit to this program. I would like to talk about the steps of becoming an ML GDE. So first step is the eligibility check, which assesses your eligibility to the program on your existing community efforts. This can be in shape of blog posts, live streams, face-to-face workshops, or YouTube videos. You need to share what you know with people so that we can get an understanding that you are actually a community-oriented person. If you pass this step, if you pass this step, you go through the community interview, which is more on community mindset and your motivations as a member of the community. This is helped by another Google developer expert. So you will be interviewed by a Google developer expert in the area you are joining, which is machine learning. If you pass a community interview, the last step is the product interview, which you will be interviewed by a Googler on various topics. This can be about machine learning. This can be about how you can communicate any machine learning algorithm, and so on. This is helped by an engineer working at Google's ML ecosystem. So I am not a fan of giving advices, as I feel like everyone is built different and these tips might not work for you. But what helped me in my journey was the online courses, being in a community, spending time on Kaggle, which is something I don't do for the last year. But finding a community is very important in your journey of becoming a machine learning engineer. If you don't have a job as a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, I feel like it's best if you build a portfolio in GitHub, Kaggle, or Hugging Face, consisting of end-to-end notebooks. You can build cool UIs for your machine learning models, as this is going to increase your chance on finding your first job. Thanks a lot for listening. You can reach out to me from my Twitter DMs. There is my Twitter handle. If you have questions on becoming a machine learning Google developer expert or starting your career as a machine learning engineer. Next, you will be listening to amazing presentation of Irene.
Thank you, Merve. My name is Irene Giannoumis, and I am glad to, I'm a technical program manager at the TensorFlow team at Google. I am very glad to be with you today to talk about how we can build diverse research communities in the areas of AI and ML, and more specifically to tell you how you can get started in open source and be part of the TensorFlow community. A little bit about my background. All journeys are different, and that's okay. When it comes to exploring your career options, there's no one size fits all. I started in a very small traditional island in Greece that is like 40,000 people. I liked math, but there was no obvious path to computer science there. I moved to Canada and studied electrical engineering at McGill, where I actually found the books by James Whittaker about how to break software, which actually got me in trouble at school. It's very easy to start finding security flaws at university, but it also got me my first job at Microsoft, where I stayed for 13 years. So hacking has pros and cons. Near the end of my 13 years at Microsoft, I was doing predictive programming there, and that's where I realized that Google has been and is still to this day on the cutting edge of ML, which is what drew me to Google. I very much wanted to learn more about ML. I knew a lot about how to build infrastructure for enterprise systems, and I decided to move my career to Google. When I first joined, I didn't know much about ML, so I got actually into book clubs. So shout out to Latinx AI. They took me in and we were trying to read the deep learning book by Ian Goodfellow. So we were doing a part where each one of us pretty much was reading a chapter, trying to understand all the backgrounds and sharing it with like everybody else. The interesting part is at that time, actually, Ian Goodfellow used to work on the floor above me, so I had a clutch if I needed it, that if I had questions, I could get him to actually come back and reply. He was gracious enough to present the last chapter of the book to show, like, thank you for going over the full book, and it was a great closure there. I had started by doing counter-abuse programs at Google, and then I switched 4 years ago to be part of the TensorFlow team. And I'm working to open source TensorFlow pipelines, as well as basically onboard enterprise and other users to our software. I have co-published papers, so in a way that we actually published our experiences of what it takes from going to a model, the model that you train on Python notebook, and what it takes to actually bring to production to make sure it is reliable, to make sure you understand when it becomes stale. And I also technically edited a couple of books. So basically my career journey is, I started from not knowing anything about ML to reading stuff to maybe being able to technically edit a book. So if I can do it, anybody else who puts the effort can do it as well. So that's my experience of how I got started in ML, and I'm very proud of the work that the TensorFlow team is doing to open source, as well as bring more voices, contributors, and users to the table. And talking about more voices, TensorFlow is an open source framework, and our goal is to enable our contributors by fostering an open and welcoming environment where all contributors with all levels of experience are welcome. Our diverse community is governed by the TensorFlow Code of Conduct that you can see here, and maintained by the project stewards Thea Lampkin and Joanna Carrasquera. Some parts of our community, our vibrant community, includes code and non-code contributors, community managers, and students. We onboarded 167 machine learning experts, just like Merve, which are part of the Google Developer Experts Network. They're practitioners from the community that also do outreach. We have established 80 TensorFlow user groups worldwide to upscale contributions to TensorFlow with a local focus. I've actually ended up pre-COVID going to Singapore and being part of such a community and giving a talk there and realizing all the TensorFlow users and all like the startups. It was a great environment to both meet entrepreneurs as well as for students to come and visit, because they got the opportunity to see what are the jobs and what are the opportunities out there. We formed 13 special interest groups, which are focus groups to contribute to certain kinds of TensorFlow. And we had about 20 students last year participating in the Summer of Code, some of which published examples for automatic speech recognition. Furthermore, our documentation has been translated to 12 languages, and on GitHub we have about 2,500 contributors and 90,000 commits. What a fantastic work. Altogether, we have built an open source project that we can be very proud of. But still, we need to make it easier and more transparent to contribute to TensorFlow in order to empower our community to do more and have a wider reach. We will go over some of the changes that we made over the last year in order to achieve this goal. We have defined APIs where you can add or split out code into separate projects. We have made it easier to start building and creating new projects with easy entry points like documentation, testing, or contributing by showcasing your project via blogs. It definitely inspires other women to see examples of women and their contributions in ML. This is an example of an easy contribution, which is actually very valuable. This was done by Hai San, which is Happy as a San, and it's our translation into Korean. We have about 268 tutorials currently translated across 12 different languages. And we really want to provide a good experience to our contributors. So in order to do this, we will always continue to support translations of our documentation into other languages. Another way to contribute is via blog posts. We have had 50 blog posts in TensorFlow, and this is one example of bringing the Mona Lisa effect to life with TensorFlow.js by Emily Z. So whether you guys are doing testing, docs, or blogs, thank you. We have started a process to be able to allow external users to contribute to the design and the decision-making of TensorFlow, and that is via RFCs, which got introduced in 2018. That's request for comment. We discussed there very large changes, especially when it comes to TensorFlow 2.0. We have accepted 25 RFCs over the last year and 150 RFCs since we began. This is one of the best ways to keep up with the evolution of TensorFlow and provide feedback. And we have already received feedback requests such as pluggable device or end-to-end text processing. And as mentioned, this is a lot of the feedback came through about how we build TensorFlow 2.0. So if you try it out, you'll see a lot of your requests included there. For bigger projects, which require us to work as a team, we have created a TensorFlow special interest group. Those are groups with a defined project focus, and we basically take ownership of specific areas to add and maintain new features. SIGs are how we collaborate around building TensorFlow the most. There are many users of TensorFlow outside of the ones that the core team can resource, and we wanted to make sure that we enable that collaboration in a way that the project can also be supported going forward. We first started by SIG build, and now we have about 13 SIGs. There's SIG.io, where we can connect TensorFlow to other systems like Apache Ignite, Kafka, Arrow, Parquet, Hadoop, name it. SIG.js, where we support web developers using machine learning with TensorFlow in either their JS applications, something like when we do the real-time image analysis from the browser or PostNet, as you have seen it. The contributors are welcome to join the SIGs based on the parts of TensorFlow they enjoy or care the most. Right now, we have about 80 TensorFlow user groups distributed across the world. And so far, those user groups have reached out to more than 100,000 machine learning developers worldwide. And by the way, if your country or city does not have a TensorFlow user group, feel free to reach out to us, and we can help you with the resources and share the best practices from around the world. And the events, as mentioned earlier, are a great way for you to engage with the community. We also have about 167 GDs that I mentioned earlier. The US has the most with 25. And last year, GDs gave more than 1,000 talks and published 295 articles, reaching about 500,000 developers. Our ML GDs play a critical role in advancing ML education worldwide. And if you would like to be part of this brilliant go-to-pack service, get in touch with us. Just to highlight some other events that they did is the African Build-Up event and the Docsbridge event in Korea. So what motivates our GDs? We have also heard from Merve, but we also have here Margaret, who basically said that her motivation is she's the kind of person that when she sees a problem, she wants to solve it. She wants to be able to help. And we have here Bianca, whose motivation is that she wants to be able to make sure that her own voice is heard. ML would be everywhere in the near future, so it is great for women to have a voice, both in its design, implementation, and as well as curation. But we are not there yet. Out of the 167 ML GDs, only 26 are women. Those women represent about 15 countries out of all the countries. And as you see here, literally there's about 4 women GDs in Brazil, USA, and India, and then it drops down to 2 and 1, which means the number for most countries representation is 0. So those countries do not have a voice in our program, and we very much want to change that. We started a working group on diversity to be able to find mentors for women who are interested in becoming ML GDs and help them with all the requirements across those ranks. That's a call to action for you. So, because without your involvement, OSS does not reflect the broad audience of its users and consumers, and you can be the one or hopefully more from your country or region. I will not go over the requirements. Merve went over them a few minutes ago. But basically, this is a call to action again. If you're interested, if you know someone else that is interested, that has the right experience, feel free to apply or to refer them. Now, if you say, I'm not there yet, I'm still trying to learn, we also publish multiple courses. We have courses in Coursera. Those are actually free, and you can try it out. And we have also, at least the audit function, the audit option, and most of them are free. We also launched a course at MIT, which is free to audit. And we also have partnered with Andrew Ng for the courses in Coursera, which actually I've listened to those, and he's very interesting to listen to. We also launched the TensorFlow certificate program. This is a great way for you to be able to increase your proficiency in machine learning and be recognized in the community for that expertise. We have had about 4,400 people passing the exam since we launched it. And actually, I saw recently a blog from Ayara from Egypt, who basically went from a beginner in ML to an instructor in about a year. That's not a common case, but that is to say that there's a lot of material and a lot of knowledge that can be gained from you following that certificate program. And of course, there are always resources external to TensorFlow. For example, we have had meetups, which is where I said I started by following the Latinx AI meetup. There's Google Student Developer Clubs, data circles, and PyLadies, which are also awesome networking opportunities. So what can you do? What's our call to action? If you're an expert in machine learning, please join the MLGD program. If you want to contribute to a specific part of the TensorFlow code, feel free to join a SIG. If you want to advance your career development, because it is a change of career, because you want to actually boost up your skill set, feel free to take the TensorFlow certificate program. If you have a very cool use case, like the Mona Lisa effect that we saw earlier, or anything else where you're using TensorFlow, reach out to us so you can feature it in our blog. And of course, we have a forum for you to be able to ask any kind of questions that you have. Thank you very much for listening to me. And next we have Chandni.
Thank you, Irene. Hi, everyone. I'm Chandni, and I lead the developer support operations for TensorFlow, basically giving back to community and my fellow community members by supporting them on their ML journeys. It's so good to see you all in this vibrant community of women meet up in this setup. Like Irene said, every journey is unique, and so is mine. If you are listening to this talk, I assume you are looking to get started into your ML journey, and I want you to know and think through my talk that it's the right time to get involved and feel supported through your journey with the resources that I'm going to share with you in my talk. So before I get into my journey, let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, there was a little girl born and raised in India. She was always told that men are the bread earners while women take care of families, kids, the elderly parents, and take care of their routine stuff like cooking and other stuff. That's the life that girls or women live, and that's what's going to be the future for this girl. She was told that you should study as much as you need in terms of being able to read, write, and do the basic counting in terms of maths. And that's more than sufficient for you to know. Now, this girl thought when she saw her mother working for everybody in the house but for herself and make everybody happy but herself, she thought that, is this the life that I want to have for myself? Is this the future that I want to accept for myself? And she said, I want to change my future. So she, while making sure that she balances out everybody's expectations in terms of making sure that she is learning the household chores and taking care of people and everything, while she studied hard, and she did that really, really well. So that when the day came, the so-called day of, let's see, will her dad let her study beyond the 10th grade, because that was her deciding moment. And she studied so well and got such a good grades that through the internal and external forces, dad made a decision to let her open her wings. She was able to study, not only go to the college, but do the engineering. She was the first one, not only in family, but the whole society, hundreds of families around her. She was the first one to go to college and do the engineering. She broke all the barriers, worked in the industry, IT industry, became a bread earner in the house, and she went to the States, worked with best of the industry minds there, did her MBA, and joined Google. That's the girl sitting in front of you right now, talking about this talk, how to get started in ML. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because if you put your soul and mind into something, you can do it. And this is just ML. You don't need to be an expert to get started. You can become an expert through your journey. So I'm going to tell you how I got started into my journey into ML. So that's my unique path. And I'm going to zoom a little bit into my journey within Google. So after I joined Google full-time in 2015, I was working primarily into data science space. And again, I was really interested in working with cutting edge technologies and everything, that I joined a team that was supporting Google's partners on Google Assistant and Dialogflow. This is a chatbot building platform. This is when I got introduced to the products that used AI and ML, primarily the fruits of ML. And with my curiosity and desire to learn more, I really wanted to know the secret sauce behind this that made it happen so easy to understand the natural language and everything, that I started looking into the roles that had core machine learning into its crux. This is when I found this role that matched so much close to my values and my desire to learn, basically giving back to the TensorFlow communities through supporting them in their ML journeys. Now, opportunities knocking my door. And do I feel ready? Do I know machine learning? Oh boy, no, it was intimidating. I did not know what to do at this point. I am a developer from my computer science life. I've done my MBA at this point and I know how business works. But machine learning sounds intimidating. Like a lot of us, I started Googling how to prepare for an interview about ML, and I was thinking in hundreds and thousands of search results. I didn't know where to begin. That's when I decided to tap into my network of the future teams. And through one of my colleague, I got to know that the first thing I should do is look into the machine learning crash course. That 20-hour crash course gave me the bootstrapping that I needed to know everything about fundamentals of machine learning and how the basic modeling works. Then, like Irene mentioned in her talk, there are some Coursera courses that is available, and through looking at some of your questions in terms of community questions on GitHub and everything, I felt ready. I felt confident. I interviewed and I passed, and I joined this team that is now helping hundreds and thousands of community members on their questions on GitHub, Stack Overflow, or TensorFlow forum. So why am I even telling you this? It's because this beginner track tells me that you are here because you are looking to get started as well. And like me, if you want to know, and if you're feeling that you need to be expert to get started, don't hold yourself back. Start with machine learning crash course, see where you stand, take some of the Coursera courses. All of my team members today have taken TensorFlow certification. And that also has some suggestions for Coursera courses, but that gives you the proficiency and confidence that you need, not only for yourself, but even for your future employers. Because even though you don't have an experience in ML, working in the industry, the TensorFlow certification is gonna give you that credential that you need to look good to your future employers. Moreover, if you start looking at community questions and start contributing to them, it's gonna build your contributor profile. And you're gonna look good, not just to your community, but some of them might be your future colleagues. So if you are getting started and if you start feeling like, oh, I know what it is and I can do it, start looking at those questions on GitHub, on Stack Overflow, on TensorFlow forum, and see if you're able to answer them. That could be your checking point. And once you check, reiterate, and go back and reiterate an interview, I think you are gonna build a great community profile through that. My team has done the TensorFlow certification, and I can tell you, it works. It works. It gives you a lot of knowledge gain and the confidence that you need. So today, or as of today, every year, more than 30,000 questions get asked on TensorFlow forum, Stack Overflow, GitHub, lot of community platforms. So there are plenty of those questions for you to start contributing to and make a difference. So what are you waiting for? If you feel inspired, know that all of these courses that I shared and Irene shared earlier in her talk are available to you. You can take the TensorFlow certification and feel ready. You can do it. If I could do it, you could do it too. That's all from me. Thank you. And I'll pass it on to Kelsey for the next question and answer session.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to all of our speakers for those presentations. It's fantastic and inspiring to hear about your journeys to machine learning and how you've progressed and what you've learned along the way. Now begins our Q&A portion. So another reminder to please add any questions you have via the link below your screen, and we'll get through as many of them as we can. And anything we don't answer now, we'll be sure to follow up with online. So the first question we have for the group is, what is a common misconception about either getting started in machine learning or just working in the field as a woman? Is there anything you were afraid of when you got started, or any kind of myths you'd like to debunk for the group? For this one, maybe we can start with Merve, if you have any thoughts, and then we kind of pass along to the right.
Actually, I have been training young women like around their around high school ages for programming, and they have this misconception that men are always better than them. But in fact, when you get them to when you empower them to build something, they are actually even better than them. So I didn't really have this misconception, but this is something I have seen in those young girls. And I just wanted to say there is actually not much difference. Especially I have seen so many women in ML compared to other computer science domains, because we have so many interdisciplinary researchers joining to ML from other domains.
Fantastic.
Maybe
Chandni,
I can
go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't have the stats handy, so don't quote me on the stats, but I think it's said that men apply to any role when they when they see 20% of their skills matching or even 20% ready, whereas women wait until they meet that 20% bar before they even apply to the role. And I think that is common across the industry. It's not just ML, but when it comes to ML, we even further second guess ourselves. And like I said in my talk, you don't have to be an expert to get started. We always are learning, and you get started with basics of your knowledge, or like machine learning crash course and all of those things that I mentioned, and you can learn on the job beyond that and really become an expert. So I think that's what I would say, that I would, not just for ML, I think that's what we as women do. We want to just be expert before when we get into something.
In addition to it will be, think about that the new perspective that you are bringing into the industry. Think about what type of movies you would like to make. Think about when you go to YouTube, what are the recommendations that you would like to see. Maybe there's some application of ML that maybe your colleagues, if they're male, they may not think about, but because you bring in your perspective, they will actually be able, that would be a great idea that the team can actually explore. So think of the fact that you're a woman as an asset, because you bring a new perspective to the industry.
Fantastic. Another topic that we're seeing come up in some of the questions below, and also that a few of you mentioned in the presentations, is mentorship and the importance of mentorship. And one thing I'd be curious to hear some more about is if one of you has a story about a time that a mentor really helped you in your journey in ML, or any thoughts on the best way to find a mentor for folks in the audience who are interested in finding someone who can help be a guide along their way. What would be the best way to do that? Merve, go ahead.
So I got mentored 2 times. It was I was first mentored by my data science professor, who has taught me a lot about researching, because it's a big part of machine learning and data science. And it was the second time when I got mentored by İlker, who was the Google Developers Director in MENA region in becoming a GDE. Basically, what he said was to build a solid portfolio in GitHub, because my GitHub was basically a cemetery of half-finished and not finished projects. And then I realized that actually this is something that recruiters and the interviewers look when they try to assess you if you don't have any experience. So that was one advice I got. It was a valuable piece of advice. I feel like what is the best way of having finding a mentor is to actually approaching the person you want to receive mentorship from. That's what I did the first time, but second time we became friends with Ilker and he just continuously pinged me.
I guess I'm next. So yeah, my ML journey and mentorship, like I mentioned, I had to really tap into my network to be able to enter this field, and I think that has shaped me who I am today with my current role. I wouldn't have been able to get started if it wasn't that mentor and my colleague who pointed me to the right resources. So that is what the impact that mentorship has on me so far. But I think how to find your mentor in ML, like, ML space, I really believe in tapping into your network, like either it is your LinkedIn network or your office or school, like you have professors, researchers. Like if you see somebody, try and just ask them. Know that they are knowledgeable, and if they would really be able to guide you. But if you do see that in them, a simple way would be just to ask them. A lot of people don't say no, and asking them can take you places.
Absolutely. Yeah, one quick thing to add in there, Chandni, and then Irene would love your thoughts. But I think it's very true that sometimes we, work it up in our head so much about asking someone to hear more about their work or to be a mentor or to learn from them. And I think often, most of the time they're happy to share and happy to spend some time, but I think it can be intimidating sometimes to ask that. So if you're wondering whether to approach someone who you're looking to learn from, this is your your signal to go ahead and give it a shot. Irene, anything else you would add on mentorship?
No, everything that you guys said to you folks said so far are great. For me, it was more about boosting some confidence. So like I first needed to do some reading on my own before I felt confident to go ahead and tell people, oh, I see what you're doing there. Can you tell me more? For me, mentorship typically has come through my managers who recognized like the assets that I was bringing to the table, and they wanted to push me in that next direction to be like, okay, we know you can do this easily, but let's try this new field and let's try our own. Help us write help us complete this particular project. So I'm not very good at discovering mentors. Like I go to meetups that I see more like pals, but for me it was internally. It happened to be through my management chain.
Fantastic. The next question we have from the Q&A is, I'm a beginner in AI and ML with previous experience in software development. How do I get a job in AI and ML when nobody wants to hire me with no experience in the area? Chandni, I think you touched on this sort of journey in your talk. Would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel you, whoever asked this question. I felt that way one day because yes, I was a software developer before, and I knew nothing about ML other than knowing general definitions of that. And I think, like I said, to get started, the machine learning crash course had really good fundamentals. Definitely a good place to start. But to your point around how do even employer, show confidence in me and hire with confidence? And I felt genuinely, and because all of my team members, and today there are 20 people in my team who have taken the TensorFlow certification, and I'm telling you from the first-hand experience, that it works. It gives you the knowledge that you need. It gives you the confidence that you need. And if you are able to answer the community questions, your fellow community questions, know that you are ready. That contributor profile that you build on GitHub or Stack Overflow really goes a long way in showing that even though you may not have the experience working in the industry with like some companies in the space, because you've done answered some people's question or you've done the certification, it gives you and the employer that confidence that is needed.
Sounds great.
One more thing to add. I also came with that experience in ML, but I had experience in how to, let's say, build my infrastructure to do other things. So most of the job descriptions are not ML. ML is not a job by its own. It's meant to solve a problem. So think of what is the experience that you're bringing in, so that ML will be the thing that you take away from that job, but you're giving something. So in my case, it was, I have built a lot of infrastructure projects in the past. So when it came to how do I build TensorFlow machine pipelines infra, I brought the infra experience and I had to learn ML. So every job, look at the job postings, figure out where you have knowledge in and how do you tie into the problem. So then, yes, ML may be something that you're more novice at, but you definitely have experience in other aspects of the job.
That's a great point. I think sometimes we anchor too heavily on the specific skill set we're focused on that we don't have, and sometimes forget about the other skill sets that we do have that could actually be really useful in learning whatever we're looking to learn or bringing to a specific role. So I think that's a great point. And one follow-on question we have from the chat here as well that I think is related are, what are some examples of beginner projects to add to my portfolio? So again, in this theme of kind of getting started and breaking into this space generally, Merve, would you have any thoughts on this one?
Actually, there are so many competitions on Kaggle. There is this 30 days of Kaggle challenge on Kaggle. I would highly recommend you to join that. In that, there are so many data sets and so many tutorials. You can solve tasks or join a competition on Kaggle. I would probably suggest that because it's easy to get lost in Kaggle or finding a data set to build your first project.
Agreed. I think Kaggle is a great place to get started, and they have a lot of really fun competitions as well. So pretty much anything you might be interested in, it feels like they have a chance to try your skills and learn from others who are also attempting the same task as well. We have another question from the chat that reads, I'm almost 40 and recently pivoted into data science. I'm feeling overwhelmed by the amount of info and resources. I think we can all relate to that. And also how big the field is. The specific question here, though, is ageism a problem in the field? And is that something that any of you have kind of seen or encountered or have any thoughts on? I'm not sure. Do any of the three of you have something to share on this one with the group?
Thank you for being almost 40. I am 40, so to me, basically, so my experience, to me, it was an asset because of the fact that data science has become an it thing very recently. So it means that actually people with more, that the people that come out of data science are more fresh versus the people who have a lot more experience or more senior seasoned. So to me, like 40 hopefully brings a lot of experience. And that was my journey. You must have a lot of other software experience. So when you apply, you can actually see that. And you can also think about the robustness and the reliability of the systems. Like one of the projects I'm thinking about is like, I'm working on standards for AI responsible development. So part of what grows with age, at least in my case, is to think about the long-term impacts of the changes we're making and how that may impact different user groups. How the sampling of the project works for different user groups, how to make sure to have representation, and then what it means to sustain the particular project beyond its initial conception. So again, 40 is an asset.
Love it. The next question we have is, have you ever felt imposter syndrome when working in the field of ML? And if so, how did you deal with that? Merve, I see you smiling. Do you want to take this one first?
Yeah, sure. So I'm basically working with amazing people in Hugging Face. Previously, I worked in smaller companies, but Hugging Face has so many good people with different assets. Some of them are researchers, some of them are very good engineers that are trying to optimize large-scale machine learning models. Some of them are releasing best models. Yesterday they just released a model, so it's easy to feel imposter syndrome, especially in your big tech. I feel like I talk to people from Google as well, and most of them are also feeling imposter syndrome. Everyone has a different skill set to offer, I guess, and you are there for that reason. I would say I made peace with my imposter syndrome, and it kind of pushed me to learn even more and improve myself. It's hard to get it to not to become an anxiety. So it's you have to be careful, I guess. But everyone has something to offer, and you are not there because you're an imposter. You are there because you actually deserve it.
Well said. Irene or Chandni, anything you'd like to add?
to me, it will be recognize your anxiety, recognize that you feel like not the smartest person in the room, and put it in a box and think about what is the part that I can contribute today. So for example, to me, I knew a lot about privacy, I knew a lot about other things, I knew a lot about project management. So it'll be focused on that. I understand how to get all the requirements from all the customers, I understand how to deliver this. And the moment you start having those small results that you do, that is what will boost you that will boost your confidence. I remember going originally to meetings in Google and hearing like 3-letter acronyms and everything else. I didn't understand what it was, taking down notes and then learning in the evening. And then, yes, that happened for the first 2 to 3 months. I felt that every meeting I was coming from, I had new words I needed to learn. But then I started delivering. Then I started getting a customer, being able to speak to them in those terms and being able to have the customer on board to TensorFlow. And that boosted my confidence. So the feeling was there, but the feeling became from that being the thing that kind of like rank in my brain constantly to like, once in a while I'll be in a meeting and someone says, I'm like, what is this thing? And I have to look it up. So once in a while it comes back again, but it's not as the emphasis that it had in the very beginning. So as long as you can recognize it, put it in the box and figure out like, where is the place that you can contribute? What is the knowledge that you bring to the table and the skills that you bring to the table? And then you will boost that confidence.
Makes a ton of sense. Chandni, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, Merve and Irene covered it very succinctly. That's all I would have suggested as well, that working at Google, working with some of the founders and creators, I am often into the meetings and rooms where people, like, room is full of smart people, and that imposter syndrome is not just on me, it's on like a lot of seats sitting in that room. So like Irene said, just put it in a box and see where you can add your own value, because everybody's unique and you have something to offer.
Absolutely. So I think we have time for a couple more questions. One question for the three of you is, we've talked a lot about getting started in machine learning. One thing I'm curious about as well is what excites you most about being in machine learning and about what the future holds. And what would be something that you think the audience would be excited to hear about, looking forward into what the future holds for this industry? Let's see, Irene, would you like to start on this one?
Certainly. So for me, are all the applications. Think of all these, like to be able to find a drug about COVID, right? In the past, you had to try multiple different samples. Right now, when you do it via machine learning, the medical applications, in a way, you can minimize the different the different mixes that you need to do. Think about driving. I'm a horrible driver. I hate to drive. So for me, in the past, like it's sure that when you're 15, you have to learn how to drive. But imagine that driving now means I sit in my seat, I say, this is where I want to go, and it happens. And I don't have to worry about who's cutting me off anymore because something else takes care of it. Think about all the advancements in technology in the way most of the stuff that you had now to do it manually, they can be something that is recommended for you. If I travel, I have to do a lot of research to see what type of hotels do I like. There are certain considerations that I do, what type of sites do I want to see. Imagine if the thing can come with a recommendation for you. In education, the teacher kind of needs to constantly pay attention to how well each student is doing. Imagine if with machine learning, we can tailor education to each person's liking. There's some people who are more visual learners. There's some people who are more like need further explanation. So they can be tests or other things that can be done while you're learning to see what type of learner are you and how can we help you out. So to me in ML, we're still in the beginning, and I can see lots of applications with regards to healthcare, with regards to jobs, with regards to any kind of also other manual thing that I had to do now that I no longer have to do, especially I don't have to drive. That for me excites me the most.
Chandni?
Yeah, so through the digital era, past decade and more, you've collected lots and lots of data. Like Irene said, we're just getting started with ML, using this data and making sense of it. What excites me about the future of ML is ways we would be using ML to make differences to emerging communities. Those non-privileged, not so privileged communities where even like basic medical needs are hard to be met sort of things, like ML can make a huge difference. So I'm really getting excited about the things that it can do to humanity in terms of bringing help where it's not possible today. I think I'll just summarize it in that. I know there are like many ways ML is going to help and is helping already, but I'm really looking forward to those days when this is going to be the difference maker.
Absolutely. I think, unfortunately, we are about at time to close, but maybe one final question to the three of you might be if there's one thing that you would like the audience to take away from today, like in a few words or one sentence, what might that be? Merve, let's start with you.
I would say find the closest GDG near you, and you will meet amazing people and kickstart your machine learning journey. Learn a lot from them.
Irene?
It's never too late to start learning something new. If ML is what you want to learn, we welcome it. Your voice is unique, and we need even more women representing this community.
Chandni?
You don't need to be an expert to begin. You will be an expert someday. So don't wait for that moment. Embark on your journey now.
Fantastic. Thank you all again for joining this beginner section. Please join us back in the main stream for closing remarks.
Thank you.